Every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is a story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
A very good evening to you and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News. I am Nena Oragwa. And our top stories tonight. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And our first story, in line with President Muhammadu Buhari's priority to ensure the security of lives and property of citizens and guarantee a secure environment for socio-economic activities to thrive without a hindrance, the federal government is calling on all security agencies to crush and deter all threats of crisis and conflict that will disrupt the peace and security of the country. The Minister of Defense, Mansour Dan Ali, made his call at a seminar on media engagement in crisis situation for military, security and response agencies in Nigeria. He says there is need for security and response agencies to constantly engage in essential tasks required for ensuring safety and security of Nigeria's territorial integrity. Our correspondent, Kikela Mokere, reports.
Speaking at the event, the Minister for Defense says the present administration is creating an enabling environment for peace and harmonious coexistence within and outside the country. The federal government will be providing a conducive environment for security and response agency working in the northeast to continue discharging their responsibility of securing life and properties of Nigerians during crisis.
The government will do everything possible to provide an enabling environment for them to continue to discharge their responsibilities of securing lives and property of Nigerians during crises and emergencies across the country.
Executive Secretary, Center for Crisis Communication, says the seminar is to enhance the capacity of officers to manage crisis information. The theme of the seminar, Security and Response Agency Engagement with the Media in Crisis Management, is apt and aimed to develop an efficient and responsive cadre of public relations and information officers.
The seminar was conceived in response to the need to enhance the capacity of officers responsible for the management of information in crisis situations.
It is pertinent to continuously build the capacity of information officers to be able to handle sensitive crisis information. Kikelomo Okeri, CoreTV News, Abuja.
In an effort to beef up security on coastal waters, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agencies partnering the Nigerian Navy in ensuring safe waterways for commercial trade. The Director General of NIMASA, Dakuku Peter Side, made this known at the courtesy visits to naval headquarters in Abuja. Our correspondent, Kikela Mokere, reports.
Director General, Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, says there is need for joint operation with the military in order to fight insurgency and piracy on the waterways, adding that the collaboration is to ensure that waterways is safe for commercial trade.
One of the ways to address this challenge is to take up that responsibility of prosecution from just the Nigerian police and domicile it with NIMASA.
Chief of Naval Staff says the Nigerian Navy has set up some measures to ensure that the sea is safe for legitimate trade.
We've put in place quite a few measures, to address that. One of the high points of the measures we had in collaboration with our both international partners is the arrest of the Maximus,
The collaboration will further strengthen the degree of security in the maritime sector, as well as provide security for dwellers of the area. Kike Lomo Okere, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Speaker of the House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara today held a closed-door meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Aso Rock Villa. The Speaker was driven into the forecourt of the President's office at some minutes before 3 p.m. The meeting ended at about 10 minutes past 3 p.m. Details of the meeting are still unknown. Journalists were prevented from covering the visit by security operatives. Meanwhile, the senior special assistant to the President on media, Gabriel Shehu, says there was no instruction from either the chief security officer or the aide-de-camp to President Buhari to that effect. Speculation derived that issues surrounding the 2016 appropriation bill from the cracks of the meeting. Reported earlier in the week hinted that President Buhari will be meeting the leadership of the National Assembly this week over the budget. The Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu condemned the killing of an armed Nigerian in Uzowani Council of Enugu State by persons suspected to be armed herdsmen. Ekweremadu, who stated this at plenary, also called for an immediate resolution of the unending conflict between farmers and cattle herdsmen, which was threatening to throw the entire nation into another round of crisis. Called on the Senate to immediately conduct a public hearing to enable all stakeholders state their feelings and experiences with a view to finding a lasting solution to the issue. Ekweremadu further tasked security agencies in the country, especially those within Enugu State, so without any further delay, fish out the perpetrators of the dastardly act with a view to making them face the full wrath of the law. In a related development, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, says there is need for deliberate and proactive actions to end incessant farmers and herdsmen clashes spreading across the country. At the opening of the public hearing on the motion on the urgent need to address the incessant clashes between herdsmen, farmers, and their host communities in Nigeria, Dogara, who was represented by Onyema Chukwuka, noted that if not properly checked, the crisis could divide the country. Speaking at the session, the Minister of Agriculture, Audu Ogbe, cautioned against creating grazing routes for the nomads, saying that this cannot solve the incessant clashes between them and farmers in the different states of the Federation. Dogara, however, assured that the committee and stakeholders would make appropriate recommendations that would go a long way in guiding the House in the enactment of appropriate legislation that will guarantee peaceful coexistence amongst the rural communities. Meanwhile, the Emir of Ilorin, Sulu Ganbari, has urged the federal government to take a decisive action on the incessant herdsmen attacks on communities to avert the risk of another security crisis like the Boko Haram in the northern part of the country. Ganbari disclosed this while speaking to the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, who paid him a courtesy visit on his way to inspect the steel manufacturing industry in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital. He said the herdsmen are not Fulanis, but persons who are taking advantage of the persistent crisis and lack of government intervention to cause the loss of lives and property. Professor Shibaji assured the monarch that the federal government remains committed to its fight against terrorism and other forms of attacks on innocent Nigerians. Still on insecurity, the Nigerian army says its troops have uncovered Boko Haram's new mode of dressing and means of identification. In a statement issued today in Abuja, the acting director of Army Public Relations, Colonel Sani Usman, discloses that Boko Haram fighters are now identified with uniform made of green color material and the use of ropes on their legs and necks. Usman said the discovery is the latest development in the ongoing clearance operation against remnants of the Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast. He said troops of 22 Brigade Garrison and 3 Battalion made a discovery while on a long-range fighting patrol of Gima village in Ngala, local government area of Borno State. Usman discloses that the team apprehended 2 terrorists in the new style uniform during the operation at Gima village. The World Bank says it remains committed to helping the federal government rebuild the northeastern part of the country. Managing Director of the World Bank, Sri Indrawati, who is a Nigerian today working visit, says her discussions with top government officials will focus on job creation and adding value to the nation's economy. The UNDP country representative Fatima Samura had last week reviewed the Global Bank's decision to allocate $800 million to address poverty issues in the northeastern parts of Nigeria. Samura discloses that the UN is ready to support all the government and local agencies' efforts to prepare contingency planning to avoid a situation where several cases of water diarrhea was reported. The Commission of Inquiry set up to look into the immediate causes of the last December clash between the Nigerian Army, Islamic movement in Nigeria, known as SHIIT, says it is ready and committed to discharge its duty with all sincerity and honesty. The counsel to the Commission, Yusuf Ali, made this known while speaking to journalists shortly after the Commission visit to Sheikh Zakzaki's residence and the IMN headquarters in Zaria, Kaduna State. Our correspondent was there and now reports.
A high-powered delegation of the Commission, including security agencies, visited Zaria, the headquarters of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, this Tuesday amid tight security. The senior advocate of Nigeria, Yusuf Ali, says the commission, made up of 13 commissioners with Justice Muhammad Lawal as the chairman, is working tirelessly to ensure that all parties involved in the clash are treated equally. He maintains that it has become necessary for the Commission to visit Zaria to see for itself the truth of what transpired during the clashes of last December.
When witnesses came and they were giving evidence, you can only have mental picture of what the places looked like. But with the visit now, you can then match the picture with the reality on the ground.
On his part, the Emir of Zazzau tasked the Commission to be fair in their recommendation, calling on all Nigerians to respect constituted authorities and never to take laws into their hands. The traditional ruler urges the people of Zaria and environs to live in peace with one another, as security agencies are doing everything possible to ensure lasting peace in the area.
If you have problems of any kind, or even insecurity, you know where to go, but not to take law into our hands and try to defend yourself. No. If you do that, we are becoming uncivilized again.
Places visited by the Commission include demolished house of Sheikh Zakzaki's parent, gravesite at Jushi village, demolished Shiite shrine at Dembo, demolished El Zakzaki's residence at Gilesu, demolished Shiite secretariat headquarters known at Husseiniya along Zaria PZ Road, and finally the mass burial ground at Mando, Kaduna.
And equipment in Nigeria's health sector. Experts are restating the importance of intervention of government in healthcare delivery. They also underscore the roles Nigerians must play to lead healthy lives. Our correspondent, Victoria Suleiman, tells us more in this report presented from our studios.
The World Health Organization estimates that there are over 500,000 deaths from malaria alone every year in Africa. And indeed, many of the issues facing the Nigerian healthcare system are similar to those in other parts of the continent. For decades, communicable diseases outbreak has been a threat in decimating lives. The spread of most of these ailments are, however, attributable to ignorance and poor attitude.
We need to call on Nigerians on prevention, because if we don't have too much money for curative and also too much money to go to hospital, to pay for services, so we need to encourage people to invest in adaptive prevention.
Government is also urged to make health development a top priority.
The government of the day has not focused on the priority areas. So I think it's an issue of a priority. The government of the day is not placing high premium on essential health care of the people.
One can only hope that Nigerians will do more to take preventive measures with a view to check the spread of diseases, communicable or otherwise.
Coming up on CoreTV Primetime News, groups of youths flood the National Assembly complex in protest against varying issues. Bringing details of this and more after this break. To stay with us.
With over 7 billion of world population and still counting, the world needs to hear you now than ever. Whatever your ministry or vision is, Gospel Africa will help get you there faster than you think possible. For inquiries and participation, contact 009 503 3859 or 0812-076-0011 or visit www.gospelafricang.com. Gospel Africa, the #1 media solutions for the church today. Gospel Africa, showing on this station at this time.
Glad to have you back. You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. A quick recap of our top stories. For these top stories and more of our news stories, join us on our social media platforms. Facebook.com/CoreTV News. On Twitter at CoreTV News NG. And on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/CoreTV Liverspace News. Groups of youth in the Federal Capital Territory today protested to the National Assembly in what seems to be a mixed reaction to issues emanating from the legislature. While one group calling for the stoppage of the trial of the President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, and others asking the entire legislature to resign. Our National Assembly correspondent Jamila Fegwa brings us some high points of the protest termed Occupy the National Assembly.
They arrived in the National Assembly in droves, carrying banners with varying inscriptions to press home their point, beating security operatives to a point. Accosted by the Sergeant-at-Arms, leader of one of the group, the Youth Movement of Nigeria, explains why they have come.
Our people want answers. Yes. They want action. Your children are angry. Wait, listen.
Some questions I cannot answer you.
Yes.
But select a group that are leaders, the leaders of this group.
Yes.
We dialogue and talk.
No problem.
Then we can find solutions.
Their anger grows further as they also calling on the entire legislature to resign from what they term insensitivity to the plight of Nigerians.
Our legislators have paid a lot of allowances. One of them is the constituency projects. That makes a legislature a contractor. What does a legislature have to do with the work of projects? Apart from making law, all these have to stop.
On the flip side, the Nigerians United for Progressive Change is supporting the legislature, especially the President of the Senate, who they believe is being troubled by forces working against the progress of the country.
What we see in this contrived fight against corruption is nothing but a mere witch hunt. There are salient questions which beg answers.
The group is also of the opinion that the All Progressive Congress is shooting itself on the foot as suspicions are upon their minds about some members who may be responsible for the fiasco.
The concerted persecution of Dr. Saraki is nothing other than an attempt to emasculate the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And it is having a negative toll on the affairs of governance and an attendant bite on the masses. Am I correct?
Yeah. Both groups are vying to occupy the National Assembly for the next 3 days if steps are not immediately taken to address situations they see very differently. Jamila Fegbo, CoreTV News, Abuja.
A federal high court in Abuja has refused to grant an application filed by the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, and 2 others, asking for stay of proceedings pending the termination of the appeal against the court's ruling. Justice James Soho, in a ruling today, dismissed the application on the grounds that it lacked merit and ordered that a trial would go on as earlier directed by the court. Kanu and his co-defendants have been prosecuted by the Department of State Services on 6 counts of treasonable felony, unlawful possession of firearms and other offences bordering on the agitation for secession of the Republic of Biafra from Nigeria. Judiciary correspondent Basil Okafor has more in his reports.
The Biafran agitator Nnamdi Kanu and his fellow accused persons appear in court on Tuesday for a ruling on their application. They had asked for stay of proceedings on the basis that the appeal which they filed against the court's ruling permitting prosecution witnesses to testify behind screen is pending at the Court of Appeal. But delivering ruling on the application, Justice Soho relied on provisions of Section 306 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, which prohibits courts from entertaining motions for stay of proceedings with respect to criminal cases. After dismissing the application, the judge subsequently held that the trial would proceed as he had earlier directed on March 7. The trial has been adjourned till June 20 to 23rd for prosecution to call its witnesses. Basil Okafor, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The Taraba State chapter of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) has inaugurated an 8-man zoning committee for the forthcoming ward and state congresses. The PDP says, speaking during the inauguration in Jalingo, the Taraba State capital, the state chairman of the party, Victor Bala, says the committee has become necessary to ensure equity, justice and fair play during ward, local government, state and national congresses. Our correspondent, Udwak Gadwin, brings us details of this report.
The People's Democratic Party in the state believes the team setup will inject confidence into members of the party in Taraba, and the committee's terms of reference includes determining the sharing formula for party's position during the ward and state congress. The chairman reminded the committee of the need to take into consideration the 35% affirmation for women.
We are not ready to compromise our state on internal democracy. The era of impositions is over. That the era of parallel lists of congresses is also over.
Responding, Speaker House of Assembly, who is the chairman of the committee, promised equity and fairness of the party's guideline during the Congress.
As loyal members of this party, we shall not compromise this guideline. We shall follow these guidelines strictly. We will provide an enabling atmosphere, a very conducive one for that matter, for all participants to participate freely in the next coming election.
The PDP World Congress is expected to begin on April 30, 2016. Udwa Godwin, CoreTV News, Jalingo.
The Nigeria is the blessed country is a refrain that has become music to the ears of both citizens and non-citizens alike. With more than 50 different natural resources dotted over the landscape of Nigeria, the country is rich in gold, iron, ore, marble, granite, kaolin, but yet there's so much poverty in the land. Challenges facing Nigeria from the focal points of a breakfast current affairs program called Ages, in which a guest analyst, Charles Ideho, and various callers in the program agreed that a more purposeful development plan must be put in place to accelerate development in the country. Our correspondent, Omolola Bankole, has more of this report from our studios.
Many are the challenges bedeviling the country, from the issue of epileptic power supply, fuel scarcity, dwindling economy, and the recent incessant herdsmen attack from the various parts of the country, which cannot be overlooked. On our flagship program today, analysts express various challenges the country is facing.
We should just put this party divide, put them aside, put the PDP aside, put APC aside, Labour aside, put religion aside, put essence aside, and fight for the common good of this country.
Is there any solution to any of these issues?
Okay, first of all, their heart will go out to those people who lost their loved ones. That's number one. Number two is that they will commiserate with the government of the state. That's number two. I'm just telling you what to expect. Then number 3, a committee will be set up to look at the remote causes.
Callers were not left out of the conversation.
For me, I want people to find out what course the Kachiku studied in school.
He's a lawyer.
Now, if you want to give somebody appointment, something like a petroleum minister, the person should be a petroleum engineer or a process engineer, somebody that is learned in that field.
We have failed as Nigerians to know that we have local government and we have state government. And these are the two governments that control the people.
There are a lot of places the government has failed in the nation, which we want to put it to them. Because if you go to most of the ministry, most educational ministry, any sectors they have, most of the people they are not skillful.
It is hoped that many of these challenges will be a thing of the past if the present administration will take proactive measures in tackling these issues.
Nigerians are optimistic that the agenda of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration holds better promises for them, but expressed that a functioning democracy needs an informed citizenry. They demand that adequate information on priorities, programs and activities of the government must be communicated to the citizens so as to ensure not only legitimacy but also to assure transparency and accountability. Our correspondent, Victoria Suleiman, has more in this report.
In democracy, the people of a state or polity are involved in making decisions about its affairs, starting from voting to elect leaders at all levels of government. It is then important for any government to carry its citizens along in every of its plan. This is towing the path of accountability and transparency. Many, however, score the present administration low as they believe that there has been lack of communication between the government and those governed.
It is very, very important that this issue of communicating to Nigerians be looked into, because we don't want to have a situation whereby the government, the president is saying his own, and those working with him are saying a different thing.
They hardly, talk with us, and that is why you find out that there's so much, that is not coming from government. We hardly know what the government is doing.
Communication is key to nation building, and an appeal for active channels of communication.
Communication is at the heart of nation building. No nation can be built successfully outside the context of communication and image making.
It is hoped that the ongoing town hall meeting at the instance of the Federal Ministry of Information will be the beginning of better engagement with the lead.
The Lagos State government says a total of 1,340 beggars, destitute and mentally challenged persons were rescued off the streets of Lagos in the last 1 year, just as it said about 73,664 patients were screened and helped to trace their homes through various media platforms. Speaking at the ongoing 2016 ministerial press briefing held in Alausa, commemorates Governor Kinwumi Ambode's 1 year in office, Commissioner for Youth and Social Development, Uzamat Akimbile Yusuf, says the government in the period under review released and reunited 590 rehabilitees with a relation to reintegration, while 1,228 persons were rehabilitated at the Rehabilitation and Training Center in Majidun. The Commissioner equally reminds residents that the law banning street trading and begging is very much enforced in the state, warning that government would not hesitate to apply the full breadth of the law when necessary. Also, the Commissioner for Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Lola Konde, tasked members of the society to come up with useful information on sexual violence, not only against women but men, and other social vices, including any suspected illegal baby factory. The rate of child marriage in Nigeria is becoming alarming, as about 39% of girls are getting married before they're 18 years old. The Chief Executive Officer of Save the Children International, Janti Sorikto, says in many parts of Nigeria, young mothers are exposed to violence and lack of access to health care, nutrition, and education. The organization is advocating quality education and health care for all children by the year 2030. Our correspondent, Bukola Feni, brings us this report.
Nigeria.
The Chief Executive Officer is urging government at all levels to show commitment to education and health care of children, emphasizing that legislation should enact laws that will eradicate early child marriage.
Globally, we're calling for three things. To give all children, millions of children worldwide, a fair chance, to make sure that they're treated equally, to make sure that we're financing.
To ensure under-5 mobility is reduced drastically, all stakeholders in the education and health sectors should come together and improve the sector, insisting that every state should make education compulsory.
So it's making sure that every last child in Nigeria is well protected, well educated and well fed.
Speaking on the need for all children to be educated by year 2030, the Director of Advocacy says the organization has been reaching out to over 200,000 women and children in internally displaced camps.
By 2030, every child in Nigeria is in school. We have an ambition that by 2030, no child in Nigeria is dying as a result of preventable causes. We have an ambition to ensure that in Nigeria, every child is given the opportunity to get to his or her potential.
The Save the Children is seeking for implementation of universal basic education for all children and a future where their right is protected. Bukola Afeni, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Students of the University of Lagos have kicked against a directive from the management of the institution asking them to sign an undertaking of good conduct before they could be readmitted. President of the University of Lagos Students' Union, Mohammed Olaniyan, who made us known at a media briefing today in Lagos, said the students have not done anything wrong to warrant the decision taken by the management. He said students were not going to any agreement with the management via an undertaking. Olaniyan, however, urged students who were under pressure to sign the document to secure affidavits stating that they were under duress to comply. The management of the Kaduna Refinery and Petrochemical Company says the refinery will resume daily production of petrol starting from tomorrow, April 27. Managing Director Idi Mukhtar discloses that this is part of efforts to address the current fuel scarcity across the country. He explained that the plant, which will be getting supply of crude oil from Escravos in Warri, will be producing at an average of 2 million litres of petrol per day. Mukhtar said efforts have been put in place to ensure constant supply of the petroleum product to help reduce the hardship Nigerians are facing due to fuel scarcity across the country. The Jigawa Command of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC) says it has set up a special team on the enforcement of fuel price. Addressing journalists today in the state, the command spokesman DSC Adamu Abdullahi says the action followed the presidential directive for the implementation of price regime on petroleum motor spirits in all filling stations across the country. It discloses that henceforth the Corps would ensure that PMS is sold at 86 naira at NNPC filling stations, the 6.50 kobo in other filling stations. The command spokesman warned people sabotaging government efforts towards fuel sufficiency to steer clear of Jigawa, as anyone caught would face the full wrath of the law. World stocks climbed for the first time in 4 days today, and a weaker dollar helped oil prices gain as investors fine-tuned expectations for monetary policy meetings in the United States and Japan. European shares also benefited from less than expected 80% first quarter profit fall and an unchanged dividend from BP, as well as encouraging results from UPM with the quarterly earnings season in full swing, and investors were awaiting an update from the world's biggest company. The pan-European Euro First 300 stock index climbed 0.5%, while Britain's 100 gained 0.4%. Markets see no chance of a United States interest rate increase and are pricing in about a 1 in 5 chance of a move the next meeting on June 14 to 15. The 10-year United States Treasuries yield US 101 stood at 1.8986%, easing from a 4-week high of 1.914% on Monday. Still on business stories, crude futures edged up today due to a weaker dollar in hopes for an easing the global oil glut, although gains were capped by concerns that the battle for market share between Saudi Arabia and Iran would intensify further. Front-month Brent crude futures traded at $44.75 per barrel, from the last settlement on the United States futures was $42.91 a barrel. Report says it was early to call an end to the crude oil glut as Saudi Arabia and Iran could ramp up output further in the race for customers. According to reports, the cargo will be lifted in June from Aramco storage in Japan's Okinawa prefecture and shipped to China's eastern province of Shandong. BMI research says it has upgraded its Saudi crude production forecast, reflecting the failure of the meeting at Doha, planned increases in output capacity, and the creeping politicization of oil under Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Still ahead on the news tonight, at least 35 persons have been killed in the Syrian city of Aleppo and its outskirts. We'll get details of this and more after this break.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Glad to have you back on the phone. Since South Sudan's rebel leader Riek Machar has arrived in the capital Juba after a week-long delay that was threatening to scupper a peace deal. He was sworn in as the first vice president in a new unity government led by President Salva Kiir. This is a key part of the deal aimed at ending more than 2 years of conflict that has killed tens of thousands and left 2 million people homeless. Machar fled Juba at the start of the conflict in December 2013, having been accused of trying to organize a coup, which he denied. Addressing journalists, Machar says his main priorities are to ensure a permanent ceasefire, stabilize the economy, and ensure humanitarian access throughout South Sudan. South Africa's ruling African National Congress ANC has revealed plans to sue opposition politician Julius Malema after he threatened to remove President Jacob Zuma's government through the barrel of a gun. This development comes a day after Malema told newsmen the ANC used violence to suppress dissent, citing an incident last year when members of his Economic Freedom Fighters Party were ejected from parliament after mocking Zuma. In response to these comments, the ANC decided to pursue legal action against him, pointing out that the remarks are inflammatory, treasonable, and should be treated with extreme seriousness. The ANC calls on state authorities to urgently investigate the matter and act against such conduct. Burundi's President Pierre Nkurunziza has condemned the killing of a senior army officer in the capital, Bujumbura. Brigadier General Atanase Kararuza, who was also a military advisor in the office of the vice president, was shot along with his wife and bodyguard on Monday in an attack that also injured their child. Kararuza previously worked as the deputy commander of an international peacekeeping force in the Central African Republic. This latest attack comes as violence that began a year ago appeared to have intensified. Tit-for-tat attacks between Nkurunziza's security forces and his opponents have escalated since April 2015, when he announced plans to change the constitution to allow him run for a third term as president. Kenya's controversial former First Lady Lucy Kibaki has died in a London hospital of an undisclosed illness. In tribute to Kibaki, President of Kenya Uhuru Kenyatta praised her for her role in fighting HIV/AIDS in Kenya. The former First Lady succeeded her husband, Mwai Kikabi, who governed from 2002 to 2013. She last seen at a public function in August 2010 when she seemed excited about the abduction of the new constitution. Kenya's president says she had been unwell since last month, receiving treatment in both Kenya and London. The late Kibaki will be remembered for her immense contribution in the development of the country. And now to sports.
Power style, and that's what he delivered.
The Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Solomon Dalung, says that those accusing him of playing the ethnic card in the ongoing leadership crisis in Nigerian football have not been fair to him, saying his only interest is the development of Nigerian football. The minister, while addressing journalists in Abuja, notes that the fact that Chris Giwa is from the same state with him does not mean he is supporting his action against the Nigeria Football Federation. Dalung notes that the crisis started over 2 years ago, long before he came on board, adding that he is supporting football and not parties interfered. Inquest have reviewed the 96 football fans who died as a result of a crash 1989 Hillsborough disaster were lawfully killed. Jurors have concluded that police failures led to the death in the 1989 FA Cup semi-final, as the police were said to have delayed declaring a major incident, thereby delaying the emergency response, including the ambulance service. Jurors also found out there was also an error in the safety certification of the Hillsborough Stadium, another reason for the unfortunate incident. After a 27-year campaign by victims' families, the jury has found the fans did not contribute to the danger unfolding at the turnstiles at the Leppings Lane end of Sheffield Wednesday's ground on April 15, 1989. That's it on CoreTV Primetime News. But before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. Thank you so very much for staying with us tonight. I am Nina Orago. Do have a beautiful night rest.